Everybody, welcome back to Dream Drop Long Distance, podcast about two best buds rekindling their long distance friendship through the ever silly Kingdom Hearts series. Mitchell, how you been this week?
Dude, I've been good. Actually, I know it's been a little bit longer since we've recorded just because life has been busy. I was just in Austin for South by Southwest. Awesome experience. But I know that kind of put us behind on the recording schedule a bit.
Yeah, but, it's all fun, and the listeners are none the wiser as we try to release this on a weekly basis regardless.
We do. But yeah, no, things are great. But I'm really excited because this is, as we've told people, this game, Kingdom Hearts 2, has started to introduce some new levels that we haven't seen in previous games. And in this week, we're actually talking about a brand new level and also an older level that kind of got a bit of a revamp.
Yeah, they really, they knew what they were doing. They knew the threads that people wanted to see tugged on. Like, this first world is one that was mentioned. We knew it existed. We knew these characters existed. We've met them before. Where the second world was kind of the most disappointing design-wise, and now is far more fleshed out. So I'm excited to get into all this.
Yeah, no, me too. Well, let's jump in. If you want to start us off on the first world that we go to?
Yeah, so this is actually my wife's favorite world. This is Beast's Castle. She's a big Beauty and the Beast fan, so this was the only part of the game that she watched with me. So like the other worlds, it kind of opens in on a scene, and this is Sora, Donald, and Goofy kind of exploring a castle that they've never been in before, and they hear this loud growling noise. But rather than be afraid of the noise, they stop and listen to it again. They're like, could that be? And that's the beast.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny that they all kind of wandered in, and they're like, I think Donald said it, or Sora was like, what is this place? And Donald's like, it's huge. And Goofy pops off something about it being gloomy. And they're all trying to figure out who it belongs to. And they immediately recognize this roar. And you could tell their faces go from a little bit of fear to excitement because they just heard of the sound of a friend.
Right. And at the same time, though, that's when the Heartless decide to show up.
They do. We see some Heartless running towards a door. And we kind of chase after them. We walk into this room. And the guys spot the very well-known, if you've watched the Beauty and the Beast animated movie, this glowing rose that's kind of held inside this glass container. And you can tell they're all like, whoa, what is this thing? And then, bam, they are immediately swarmed by Heartless.
And you fight them off to a certain extent, and then Beast shows up to save the day, as it were, and put an end to the Heartless, but instead all he does is just smack the hell out of all three of them, grab his rose, and walk away.
Yeah, it was funny, they're getting, they're just I think Sora pops off something about, they just don't end. And then Beast comes in and starts taking Heartless out with no problems. Well, Sora goes to give him a high five, and Beast just backhands him across the room. And Dora, Donald and Goofy try to do the same thing.
Dora.
Good old. Well, they try to help Sora. He swats them away. And as Kyle said, he picks his rose up. And you can tell he almost kind of seems like he's in a weird trance because all he keeps talking about is keeping the rose safe.
Yeah, that's true. And he doesn't seem to respond to them or even recognize that they're his friends.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy.
So with that, though, they step outside to explore the castle a little bit more, and Donald sees Belle, who they met at Hollow Bastion, and so they go looking for her.
Yeah, and it was it's funny because in this world we don't see her in her kind of dolled up princess outfit. We see her in her blue, just kind of everyday girl clothing with a ponytail.
So you wander your way down the hallway to, I think it's the East Wing or something. You go down looking for them, or looking for her, and instead of just walking in and announcing themselves like, hey, Sora, Donald, and Goofy, we're your friends, good to see you, they decide that it's a good idea to sit outside of Belle's door and eavesdrop? I didn't understand that.
Yeah, they kind of do. I think they were trying to just see what was going on. And I believe it was Sora who starts being like, all right, we got to get in there. But he's trying to do it kind of more covert. And Donald just goes, okay. And he just full tilt puts his shoulder down. And before Sora can yell stop, Donald busts the door wide open.
I love that scene.
Yeah, and you could tell Sora, it wasn't even locked, first of all, so he just basically kicks the door in. And Sora and Goofy are just like, oh, dude.
Thankfully, Belle is really chill about it, but, a duck breaking into your bedroom is not exactly a girl's dream come true. But in this case, it is. She's so happy to see them.
Yeah, she was stoked to see him, and she proceeds to tell the guys that Beast has locked up all of his servants in the dungeon and just has not been speaking to her. He's just gone off to his own wing of the castle and is just become basically a recluse. He is not talking to anybody.
Right, so we have to go and rescue them. Fast forward, we're off to the other wing of the castle at this point, where we bump into a strange dresser that's blocking a door.
Yeah, this is actually, I think it's the first time that we are introduced to the whole like talking inanimate objects aspect of this, where we go to move the dresser and the dresser wakes up and goes, do you mind? And of course, Sora freaks out, and then the dresser just proceeds to slowly move back to blocking the door.
Right. So our job here, the little mini game they've put before us, is to move the dresser when it's asleep and not when it's awake. So you're basically just playing Don't Wake Wiggler from Mario Party.
That's actually a really good reference. Yeah, I mean, basically. One thing I wanted to bring up before we go into this next bit, though, is did you notice how I felt like the combat system in this level picked up quite a bit, where they start throwing the lancers at you, the gargoyles in this level I felt were really interesting. I don't know. I feel like they definitely cranked up the difficulty a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. I died a couple times just in cruddy little fights. I mean, again, we are playing on critical, so that is part of it. We're taking way more damage than we normally would be.
True.
But yeah, they do ramp it up. Yeah,
because I noticed especially in the open court, right as you walk in, as you're traveling between wings, it's one in particular that'll happen over and over again, where you fight a fat bandit and then two lancers, which is already kind of a pain. But then they throw 3 fat bandits at you. And these bandits have now been given kind of this like run around and chase you ability. But they've also been given this ability where they go on their stomach and they start spinning. They've made it trickier. They basically took some of these old classic Heartless and they were like, we're going to give them like 1 to 2 new battle mechanics that you're not used to. And then we're going to throw them at you. I thought that was really cool. I'm glad. I was really stoked to see that they weren't just like, oh, we're going to give you the same old. We're going to give you these classic flavors with just new things. Like we're going to keep giving you interesting stuff.
I agree. It made the game a lot more interesting, and it made it so that the Heartless were able to be interesting in the same way that the Nobodies have been up to this point. Yeah, I especially like that. You didn't finish him off in time before his superpower is activated? Well, it's okay, because now you can use a reaction command to stop him instead of having to guard at the perfect time.
Yes. Oh, the new reaction commands make combat so much fun, where you might be getting bull rushed by this. I mean, because you can't damage them from the front. But if you time it just right, you can basically kind of key block them and stun them, and they spin around, and you can hit them back at their teammates. And it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but it makes the combat more interesting. And that was what this entire game did very well, was take that classic fighting style and then just crank it even more.
Most definitely. And the lance tug that you can do with those lancers is pretty fun too, where you're just kind of like flying around for a little bit. So it's like, okay, cool, I'm safe for a minute. And then you slam down on the ground and you hit a bunch of things in one area. And that's kind of nice.
It's so cool. Yeah, they made the Heartless so much more interesting in this game. I love it.
Most definitely. So, getting back on course, though, you've pushed the dresser out of the way. And inside, there's this ominous-looking doorway. And you're like, oh, that's a fight. That's a fight.
Yeah, you kind of look at it and you're like, oh, this is it's designed like a Heartless. And Donald goes up to the door to listen to it. And all of a sudden it starts glowing. And he just starts backing up very quickly and goes, uh-oh. And we are introduced to, so far, what I think is probably what I thought was one of the coolest designed Heartless battles that we've done. Which the best way I think I could describe it is this door, which has these two like kind of gargoyle shaped etchings in it, literally turn into this double Heartless conjoined at the body gate that they kind of now have become 3D and basically grow out of the door, and each of them have a weapon. And so you're fighting basically just a Heartless door. And it was so cool.
I think that this was the game designers really making the most of the Disney world that they were in, which I think is going to be a recurring theme here, like throughout the worlds that we go to. But if you think about it, the characters of this world, like the dresser is an inanimate object that has been given life. But instead of fighting them, because that would be bad, you don't fight the actual, unless they're a villain, you don't fight the actual Disney characters. But you can fight an inanimate door that has come to life. So that's kind of cool, the way that they did that. And the statues that you can run into along the way, too, the little gargoyle statues.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I was actually going to ask, how many did you beat this in one try?
I did, actually. I remember this fight being hard, like really hard. But yeah, no, I got it in one try this time. I'm sure you didn't, because as the listeners may recall, Mitchell and I did Land of Dragons and Beast Castle in opposite orders. So yeah, Mitchell went to Beast Castle a few levels under-leveled.
It was tricky. But I didn't beat it the first time. I beat it the second time. And I will admit, on the second playthrough, on the second try, I got to probably he had maybe a sliver of health left. And he knocked me out. And I was like, damn it, man, I got to go for this again. But I was saved by the man himself, King Mickey, who came in so clutch, and I was able to, run around with him and store up enough magical energy to bring Sora back up, and I was able to finish it off.
Yeah, I had a King Mickey moment in this world too. So it's pretty cool to watch King Mickey just show up with his golden keyblade and his organization robe. I mean, he kicks butt too. He'll throw down some enemies, like their health will absolutely diminish. I mean, you can't kill a boss as Mickey. Mm-hmm. You can get it down to like 1 health, but you still have to get Sora up to do the final blow.
Which at first I didn't know until I had been wailing on it. And I realized it's like no matter how many times I hit it as King Mickey, he wouldn't go down. And I was like, oh, it must have to be Sora that does this. So it's like, because there's no reason his health should still be at that point.
Right.
So that was an interesting lesson.
Yeah, but you go through the charges or whatever. You I think it's a drive gauge that you have to try and charge up, and once you do that, you can bring Sora back up. Yeah,
I think with King Mickey, you have to store 3 drive gauges worth of power, and then he revives. He can revive Sora, and it doesn't take very long. It's just you have to do it in the midst of combat. And so you kind of have to time it well.
Challenging.
Yes, especially against mini bosses or bosses who are constantly trying to kill you.
I could be wrong, but I think King Mickey can only show up in bosses and mini bosses too. So,
I don't want to say yes or no, but I definitely don't remember him ever really showing up in past playthroughs during just like a normal encounter.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it too. And I've had some just embarrassing moments where I'm like, oh yeah, I've got a quarter health. I'll be okay. I don't need a cure yet. And I just blasted. Had a chance to bring King Mickey up. So
yeah, because you don't get a choice on when he comes. Like you can't decide like, oh, I should have King Mickey pick me up. Like, no, he shows up kind of under his own decision making.
Yeah, and I mean, you do get the choice. You can still choose not to bring King Mickey in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can say, like, it's like, don't give up or it's all over are your choices, I want to say.
I think that's what it is. Yeah, you basically can be like, you can kind of just be like, I'm good, I'll just restart.
Yeah, which I did in a later fight, but we'll get there. So, yeah, getting through that, though, we're introduced to the full cast of the castle, really. We get Lumiere, Cogsworth, Mrs. Potts, Chip, like the main crew of the castle is all here.
I want to point out just one quick thing is because obviously these guys, it's the first time they're seeing the little cast of characters, and they just think, oh, it's an inanimate like a candlestick, a clock, a teapot, and a little cup. And Donald just starts shaking Cogsworth furiously. And he's just literally yelling, like, put me down. And Donald just I don't know why, he just like is laughing and keeps shaking him like like an absolute psychopath.
It starts tickling him too. Doesn't he like open up his little front door?
He does.
Him on the inside.
It's so weird. Like everybody, like Sora is just talking to Lumiere, the candlestick, and Donald's just sitting over there, just like plucking and playing with the clock guy who is just like, stop touching me.
So we kind of get through all of that, and we're told that there's a shortcut that we can use to get out of the castle, which I don't really understand why we need to use that instead of just walking out the door. But I think it's because we need to get past the statues that are blocking the stairs up to Beast's room. Yeah,
that one was kind of weird. It was this dungeon-esque area where I didn't realize, I almost didn't beat it, because basically there are these boxes blocking each of the lantern areas that Lumiere has to go and light to open the door at the end. But basically, like, you can hop over the boxes and do all that, but the other characters can't. They have to go around them. So I was just like, oh, I'll beat the Heartless and they'll come. I didn't realize you had to beat the Heartless and also break the boxes. Otherwise, they take extra time to go around them.
I figured that out pretty quickly. I think maybe just because I remembered this section, but I still had to leave the room and reset it once because, I think Mrs. Potts, because I had to go back and charge up Cogsworth, who's like holding down this handle. It's a whole complicated thing. Cogsworth holds down the handle, which lowers the lanterns. You have to go up and cleanse the lantern so that Lumiere can, or no, you and Mrs. Potts have to cleanse the lantern so that Lumiere can light it with normal fire instead of dark fire. I don't know. It's a contrivance, but it's fun.
Yeah. No, it's a whole thing. But we get done with it though.
Yeah, but I had to reset once because Mrs. Potts was trying to just like go over the wall. She couldn't just go over the wall like I could just fall down over the wall, and she just kept jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping and not going anywhere, and she wasn't supposed to take any other path. So I was just like, well, time to reset the puzzle. So I came back and I was like, all right.
Man, that just it harkens back to the old PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360 gripes everybody had at those times of not fetch quest. What's the term for escort missions? Yeah, where you're having to escort NPCs who aren't the brightest.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, and they got better. So I mean, it was clever at the time to like do this type of thing. But yeah, it also wasn't ready. But whatever.
No. I mean, we got through it. Let's just put it at that. But that didn't. We get through with that. We get through the castle. We get through a couple of different areas, and we make it to Beast's room. And who do we see there?
In addition to the Beast, we see a member of the organization who's like poisoning his mind against Belle. He's like, she just wants to take your rose. She's laughing at you and crap like that. Like this voice is a little intimidating.
Yeah. At one point, he actually tells me, he's like, who could ever love a beast? Fuel your anger. And then he just disappears. And I'm like, oh, this guy is absolutely just manipulating him to his core mentally.
There's some major Itachi Uchiha energy going on right here.
Yeah, freaking. That's an anime reference for anybody who doesn't know.
Either you know it or you don't. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. But then Beast attacks us.
Yeah, which is for the best because you get a little bit of preparation in this fight if you take the time to like talk to all the NPCs when you're given a chance to do it. Like Chip will say, "Oh, Cogsworth has an alarm that's so loud almost anybody would wake up." So it's not just a fight with Beast here. There's you have to use Cogsworth, this like wake up thing that he's got to make the fight happen.
Yeah, kind of one of those reaction abilities, which I will say that kind of made this fight way too easy.
Yeah, I wrote the same thing down. I was like, oh, if I just keep pressing the Cogsworth button, he just keeps getting stunned, so I can just keep swinging. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't much. And after, probably the fifth or sixth time you stun him and get a good whack in, you do beat him. But then he wakes up and you realize he doesn't remember, because he's kind of like, what happened? We tell him, like, you put everybody in the dungeon. He's like, I did? And you realize he doesn't remember doing any of that. He doesn't remember putting everybody in the dungeon. He doesn't remember being mean to Belle. He said, but the only thing he remembers is this man coming to him named Zaldin. And so we can only guess that is the name of the organization member we've seen previously who was screwing with him.
Yeah, I'm glad to be able to start putting names to people like this.
Yeah, and he just looks, he's like, that Zaldin, he used all my sadness and turned it into rage. And he starts like kind of overjudging himself, and the gang just, they're like, dude, you need to just ease up and go talk to your girl, because you got some making up to do.
No joke. So at about this time, though, did you finish the awakening puzzle? Those little crowns that you're picking up all over the place?
So no, because I just realized from you that you get the high jump ability from leveling up your Valor form, which I have not got to yet.
Got you. Okay. Well, yep, that'll do it. That would be the problem. Okay.
So gonna work on that.
Okay, because the awakening one, you get an AP boost. It's not anything too special, but yeah, if you get high jump going, you can get quite a few of the ones that you can see up to this point.
I know there were quite a few in this level and Mulan, and I can see about 8 in my head that I was like, I need the high jump for that.
Yeah, and high jump just gets better too, because like now there was one that I had to use Valor form to get an even higher level of high jump, because when you unlock a higher level, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I mean, I know I'm very behind on the. I don't know why the Valor form just in like the forms they're kind of been like second or third in my brain when it comes to combat, when I know it should really be like first.
Yeah, because I mean, it's free experience, and what else are you going to do without those drive form gauges? Oh, a fun little bit, one last little tidbit before we get back on it. One of the best ways that you can farm is to get into your Valor form near a save point, fight some enemies, run back to the save point before the form ends, and go to the gummy ship. When you come back down, you'll be back to full.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's good to know.
But you can't let it end first. That's the whole thing. You can't let it end first. But anytime that the game forcibly takes you out of your form, it refunds your drive gauge.
Oh, cool. Okay. Hey, that's good to know. So we move on, and we actually wind up, now we have Beast as a companion. And I will say he is an excellent addition to the team.
Oh my gosh, yes, he is so strong. He's got a good limit with him.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember the names of them, but basically it's his first one, he just kind of bumbles around slamming things, slamming the people. while Sora does this. It's like a swirling key attack, but that's after their first. Basically, they do kind of this like a roar together, like a small roar together, and then it's like a Keyblade claw combo. And the very final form is they go back to back, look at each other, and they kind of do this like roaring small nuclear explosion. Which
is a lot of damage for one thing. So
yes.
I'm sure you've been using those because you're not really a magic user, so you have something else to use your MP on.
It does help. It helps a lot. But yeah, because my MP gauge isn't very huge, so whenever I can get that going, I'm using them pretty consistently.
But, we catch up with Belle, who is not in the East Wing where we left her. She is being chased into the ballroom.
Yep, and she is being chased by what we can only tell is this kind of floating ball of dark energy that's covered in chains. And you're like, oh, just looks like a ghost Heartless. But then you see it. It turns the entire room into this kind of dark void and starts possessing the room and basically makes itself into all of the objects in the ballroom.
Which is incredible. Like, my God, credit to the game designers taking such an iconic Disney scene and turning it in, like, possessing it with an evil spirit and attacking you with it. That's incredible. Well done.
Dude, it was so cool because, I think he starts off on the floor and you kind of knock him back, and then he possesses the pillars around the room, and you have to go and like wail on the pillars till he comes out of it, and then he possesses the giant chandelier, tries to fall on you, and if you time it correctly, you basically ride the chandelier and slam the chandelier into the ground, and then he falls out of it, and you attack. Yeah, it's a whole thing to get to. You're basically fighting a ballroom. It's really interesting.
So incredibly well done. Like, I forget how good this game is until it does things like this, that I'm like, oh my God, like the creativity that went into it.
Yeah, and that was just that's just the first round.
Right, that's what I was going to say too, because I was like, oh man, this is so clever. And then phase 2 happens, and phase 2 absolutely kicked my behind. Like, that was my Mickey Mouse moment. Like, Mickey Mouse showed up and had to delight me back to life.
Yeah, because basically, after you knock it out of a couple objects, it does what I described as it just turns into like Ganon's beast form from Legend of Zelda. It's this big hulking kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? Like tusked creature with long hair, and you're like, oh, this is a completely different beast. And as you're fighting it, you start to do this combo of like this step that then vaults you to the top of the chandelier, and you have to drop the chandelier on it to capture it. And then after that, there's another prompt to spin the chandelier around the room and throw him into a wall.
It was a very complex fight. I really struggled with it, and Mickey Mouse was my salvation here by far and away. I used him to just like put some good damage in, and I was like, all right, well, Sora, you can do the final blow, because I was not having a good time.
No, it was true. I mean, I realized part of the way through this level that I was like, oh, because I didn't realize it earlier. I was like, oh, I feel underleveled. So I grinded probably 3 or 4 levels before going into this. Definitely helped. I think I beat it in 2. King Mickey did have to get me up one time. So I think we probably had around the same experience with this.
Yeah. So you get him down though, and Zaldin steps out just as you're like, oh man, we did it. Yeah. And then Zaldin's like, I'm here. And then he's gone. It's like, I'm still here, suckers.
Well, they say, they're like, oh, we did it. And then they hear Zaldin go, so you think. And they turn, and he's like, and I think of Sora, who yells like, Zaldin! And before they can get to him, he just disappears into smoke.
Yeah, I don't know. And at this point, now that the day is saved and Beast is able to hear and understand things a little better now, I noticed a very big difference between the old game and this game, which is, in the last game, Donald and Goofy lived by a pretty simple code, which was maintain the world border. Order.
Mm-hmm.
So maintain the world order. And here Sora is just like, have some lore about the nobodies in Organization 13, these otherworldly creatures that you should have no knowledge of. Just like, here, take all of it. Good luck.
Yeah. No, I agree. They're just kind of, I feel they definitely have gotten less precious about preserving the worlds that they're in. And I think now they're just like, we just have to kind of do what we have to do to get this thing done.
Yeah. And then my favorite part was Sora tells him, if you hear anything, let us know.
Yeah.
How?
I know. It's like, how are they gonna contact you?
I don't think they have an inanimate phone friend that they can use to call Sora.
I no, that was funny because I wrote that line down because I thought the same thing. I'm like, how are they going to contact you? And the other thing was that I think it was maybe Cogsworth was telling Sora about the rules of the glowing rose, and that like Beast has to get somebody to fall in love with him before the final petal falls, otherwise they all stay like that. And Sora looks at him and goes, "Really? You think he's gonna make it?" And I was like, "Oh, dude!" Like, wow.
Dude.
I was like, "That's pretty." I mean, obviously, I think he was joking, but I also was like, that's pretty messed up.
Roasted like a true friend. Oh my god.
Yeah. I was like, "Geez,
Setting Beast Castle behind us, we go back to the Gummy Ship, and the Gummy Ship gets a mind of its own and drives right back to Hollow Bastion. There, as you land down, you're like, oh, I wonder what's happening. And you see Heartless come running out of the Restoration Committee headquarters. And apparently Merlin was under attack by the Heartless, and that's why the ship was recalled there.
Yeah, I get the ship was like, hey, there's some stuff going down. And yeah, we wind up going into his house and we find Merlin on the floor, and we find out that he summoned us and got attacked and wanted to let us know that he had Pooh's book.
Which I'm sure has everybody all excited. Those are my favorite episodes, but we're not there yet.
I know. We're super close. We're so close.
So Merlin's like, oh, I'm going to go get Sid and the others and let them know what we found. And Sora's like, hey, guys, what if I go in the book? What if I go in the book? Nobody will notice. Just go in the book. Cool.
It's like he's trying to get his fix. It's so cute how much he just wants to go and see Pooh.
I mean, it's been a year. I don't blame him.
Yeah, I guess so. But, I mean, yeah, so do we go in the book, though, Kyle?
Yes. Yes, we do. We do the bad thing. Donald even encourages us by holding the book open for him, which does look adorable, I must say.
We do. Donald's kind of like, come on, do it. And as anybody who has listened to this game before knows, we have now jumped into my personal favorite level, the 100 Acre Wood.
So inside we see all of the usual worlds that you're used to seeing inside of the 100 Acre Wood, all the usual locations. But you're like, oh, I wonder if Pooh's home. And you go down to Pooh's house, and there he is. He's happy to see Sora again. He's about to start doing some stoutness exercises. But then
it's such a weird thing, though, because he definitely, I don't remember if he 100% recognizes him, but he's like, oh, hey, Sora. And he asks if he wants to do stoutness exercise with him. Sora agrees. And as he goes to jump off of his log, he just stops in midair.
And then Sora's blasted out of the book.
Yeah, like Sora kind of is like, what the hell? And as he goes to touch him, this energy just blows him clear out of the book. And he's just like, he's on the floor in Merlin's house, and he looks, and the book closes up after him. And Sora's kind of looking at it, and he just hears Donald yell his name.
Right. And so Sora does the only sensible thing, which is to run out the door, leave the door wide open, and start whacking at Heartless, only to turn around and be like, did you keep the book safe? And the Heartless are just carrying the book away.
In a very funny, like, where's the book? And Sora turns around, yes, and one of them just has it in his hand over his head, like, ha 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 ha. And he's just like, no. And we beat him up and we get the book back, but the book now has this huge claw gash in the front of it.
Which is so sad just from a book enjoyment standpoint, like, dang, wow, they really damaged it. And you're like,
yeah,
man, do you think he's okay?
Well, so we find out because Sora jumps back in, and the guys are like, look, we'll cover you with Merlin. Don't worry about it. But when he jumps in the book, Pooh doesn't remember him or any of his friends now.
I know. It's so sad. Pooh calls Sora somebody I don't know.
Yeah, dude, it's so sad.
No.
Hello there. Hello there, person I don't know. It's like, oh, no, not again. We wind up coming out of the book, and Merlin claims it's probably due to the pages that the Heartless stole, and he says it's one of the world's most cherished treasures, so don't tell Leon about it.
Yeah, I took a screenshot of that. I'm like, this is going to be a good meme format. I'm going to edit, like, some other book in the background. It's like, this is one of the world's most cherished elements. I don't know what book is going to be yet, though, but I'm ready. It's going to be good.
God. I am excited to see what it is.
Yeah, so he sends you once again on the quest to go find the torn pages of Winnie the Pooh's book, and also for no real reason other than Merlin was kind of responsible for this before. He gives you the Chicken Little summon.
He does. I forgot about this one. I honestly kind of forgot about that movie.
Yeah, you can tell that all of this is definitely, like, Kingdom Hearts was being used as a driver for recent Disney properties, because Chicken Little did not, like, last. It didn't stand the test of time, because, I mean, the movie came out in 2005, and I doubt either of us have thought about it since 2005. I
cannot tell you if I watched it in its entirety. I don't know. I mean, maybe. I just I recognized the character.
I saw it in theaters, but that's a story for another day.
Another day.
So, with that weird sidetrack, you are immediately, boom, put right back into your gummy ship so you can get back to what you're doing. And before we talk about that other world, I want to talk about the gummy ship battle that happens along the way.
Dude, yes. Oh, this one was awesome.
Like, this moment is everything that the gummy battles needed to be in the first game. So, you're kind of like going down a corridor for a little bit, and there's ghosts that are attacking you. And then off in the distance, you see something, and Chip and Dale are freaking out about it. And finally you get closer, and it's a big honking ghost pirate ship.
Yeah, like
what?
But it's this crazy, like, multi-step, like, the ship has not only different cannons on the front that you're fighting, but cannons on the sides, cannons on the back. The very front of this ship is this skull face that is, like, spewing out heartless cannonballs at you. And you kind of are just picking and choosing which parts you want to destroy while you're being attacked by other heartless. It's a lot, but it is such a fun fight.
Right. Like, I could do this over and over again, almost. Just like you blasting down the wheels, blasting down the cannons, blasting down the face itself, the little tip above that, and just like everything about this. There's just so much going on, but it's so cool. Like, this is everything Gummy Battles ever needed to be. And I'm so glad to see that they made such a big improvement over the first game.
Yes, they have definitely stepped up the gummy battles in this one. And it's like you're almost getting these mini bosses in the gummy battles that are then turning into, they're just layering more and more of the heartless aspect of this game into this new game. And yeah, I thought that was such a great way to move us into the next world that we're about to go into, because this one has quite a few mini bosses.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So where we actually end up flying to is Olympus Coliseum, an all too familiar world.
But unlike past games, we don't start in, well, technically we start off in a cutscene in Olympus Coliseum, but we don't start out in the actual Coliseum for once.
Right. The opening scene is just the Rock Titan getting yeeted by Hercules, Team Rocket style.
Yeah, it's just Hercules picking it up by the foot, spitting it in a circle, and literally launching this thing into whatever orbit is around this Coliseum.
He's the Rock Titan probably got hit by a passing gummy ship, and our insurance rates would go way up. It's just a bad thing. It
just smacked into the mountain in the Mulan level and caused another avalanche.
Yep. There you go. So,
anyway,
you start in the underworld instead. This dark, gloomy place with these like green and purple and blue accents, which is really cool.
Yeah, if anybody who watched the old animated Hercules movie would recognize that it's kind of just like big, cavernous, these like pools of this green kind of soul-looking liquid in the centers of some of these rooms, big bottomless chasms, very, underworld lore adjacent.
Right. So as they're looking around, they hear a woman screaming, and they just run in to help, like the junior heroes that they truly are.
Yeah, and who do we run into, Kyle?
Well, we actually run into Megara, or Meg, as she prefers to be called.
I was about to, or as she tells people, the name's Megara. My friends call me Meg.
That's the one. Quite a tough gal, this one.
Yeah, and she's being chased by some pretty adorable looking, like heartless shaped like puppies, like these fat puppy looking dogs.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that, but it's pretty adorable.
I guess they're kind of going for like the hellhound gag. But we get up to her and she tells us that Hades has been swarming Hercules with enemies until he's just about to drop. And she's like, we have to figure out how to stop him from doing this. She's like, Herc is going to keep fighting them to the point where he just can't fight anymore. And so, of course, the guys are like, oh, we love Herc. We're just going to go talk to Hades. And she's like, what do you mean talk? He's like, well, we beat him before. We'll just go have a conversation with him.
Right. And they just go off with confidence, even though they start to realize with time that their powers aren't working quite as well in the underworld as they should. The most obvious effect of that being that drive forms are not available right now.
Yeah, they are locked. If it's actually the very bottom below your health where your drive gauge was, you now see that it is completely empty and it has these chains over it, showing that it is completely unusable at this current time in the underworld.
But on the plus side, if you talk to that nice Moogle right there's some new weapons for Donald and Goofy.
That there are. I don't remember the exact names of them, but I believe Donald gets a +1 to his MP. Goofy, I believe it gives him a +1 to his strength.
Yeah, they each get a nice little boost, which is excellent. Much needed.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's been a couple of levels since we've been able to upgrade them.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't been able to buy upgrades since Twilight Town. So, So with that, we run forward a little bit, and an organization member pops out.
Yeah, but this guy kind of sounds slightly like a younger guy, and we're kind of fighting our way down a tunnel. And we see him running at us, and the guys are like squaring up to fight him. And he runs right by us and just starts yelling, "Run! Run away!"
Right. Yeah, he is scared out of his mind of, I can only assume Hades? I don't know.
That's the only thing we know up to this point that he would be, but the guys kind of look at where he just teleported to, and they're like, what the heck? What the hell just happened?
Right. And at the same time, we actually see, this is about the time that you see the absent silhouette, right? The little outline of the book.
Yeah, which at that point, they don't explain very in depth. And when you go to touch it, it says it's called Absent Silhouettes. And you're like, oh, you decide not to touch it. We don't quite know what it is at this moment, but we'll find out more in a little bit.
Yeah. So just for reference, just to throw it out there, you and I aren't going to be dealing with those things until the end of the game.
That's what I figured. That wasn't a part of the old game, was it?
No, this is part of the final mix.
Okay, because I did not remember that being a thing.
Right. These are actually little mini boss battles of the fallen organization members. Like in this instance, it should be Zexion, I want to say. He was the one who had the book.
Oh, fun. Yeah, it was Zexion. That's cool. I did not realize that's what that was. Oh, that's really... I can't wait for that. Okay.
Yeah, we get to fight them for real instead of with cards, because God help me, I don't want to fight with cards ever again.
Oh, me either. God, me either. Okay, so we could do that, but we go to a cutscene, and it's Pete who is now talking with Hades in his underworld throne room.
Yeah, he and Pete are conspiring on how to beat Hercules and turn him into a Heartless.
Yeah, but Pete is actually kind of dogging on Hades because he's like, you keep sending all these fighters and Hercules just keeps on beating them.
Why don't you just send somebody who's already dead?
Which he thinks is hilarious, but then Hades kind of looks at him and he goes, actually, that's a great idea. You can tell Pete's like, what is? He's like, I'm going to send somebody who's already dead.
And, oh man. So we don't know what's happening just yet because next it goes to, you have to like keep crossing your way to get over to that. And I just love this little moment where it's these long pathways and there's a huge chasm that you can fall into on either side. And Donald and Goofy are just like seeing it and they're just quivering in their boots. They are spooked by the idea and the existence of hell, like right in front of them. These poor guys.
Yeah. But you got to think also, it's like, I'm surprised that they're even that surprised about it when they've been bouncing around to so many worlds. It's like, it makes sense that something like this would exist.
Right. It's just now it exists directly in front of them. And as we're about to learn, it seems like this underworld has the dead of all worlds, presumably, because as we're about to learn here in a second, Hades pulls out somebody who is definitely not from the Coliseum.
Yeah, no. So Hades pulls out from this pit, this one-armed sword fighter, only because his other arm is in a sling. And this sword fighter actually tries to start fighting Hades and try to take him down. And
instead of taking Hades up on his deal to just kill Hercules and you can live your life for free.
Yeah, which he's like, or better yet, and just starts swinging on him.
Anybody who's played Final Fantasy X should immediately recognize that this is Auron, who is an incredible character. I'm so happy to see him here, as somebody who did actually play Final Fantasy X between Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2.
His design is sick, and like he's got this kind of, that mysteriousness about him, and the guys don't even really get much of a moment with him. They just walk in on him fighting Hades and are immediately like, oh, he's fighting Hades. We're on his team.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't go to plan, and Auron's like, we need to get out of here, or something like that. And Sora's like, but I've got to talk to Hades. And I never noticed this. I don't know why I never noticed this. Sora's like, I got to talk to Hades. And Hades puts his fingers in his ears and says, what was that?
Yes. Oh my God. That's one of my notes too. It's like the most childish. He's like, oh, I got to talk to Hades. Like you said, Hades has plugged both of his ears. Like, just like, what was that? La, 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 la. It's like, that is so like that Disney humor that you saw in that movie. It's so good.
I don't know why it reminded me of Beetlejuice more than anything.
I could kind of see that. It's very adjacent.
Like the screwball dead humor. I don't know.
But that's also like, that is very much the humor that you saw in that movie with Hades and like Pain and Panic, especially.
Oh, yeah. I need to rewatch the movie. It's been too long.
It's a good movie.
So we get an interesting little abnormal fight scene here, which is that Hades is now pursuing you as you're fighting your way out of the underworld. So you're having to go through waves of Heartless as Hades is just kind of bothering you the whole way because you can't fight him. Your attacks just go straight through. Yeah,
you realize that like while you're in the underworld, at this current moment, you can't hurt Hades. This is Hades' place.
Right. So with that, you just have to fight your way out of there, just kind of opening an additional area each time you beat out the Heartless.
Yeah, and we escape, and we actually cut back to Pete telling Hades that he's got Heartless all over the underworld, and all Hades needs to do is worry about turning Herc into a Heartless. So Hades tells him to shove it, and then just sends Cerberus after us.
God help me, Cerberus. I think in this moment, there's like a scene with the two of them, with the four of them, like Sora, Donald, Goofy, and Orin, where they're like, oh, so you must be a hero, right? Like, of course you're a hero. You're a strong, tough guy, which, yeah, like whether or not Orin is a hero is kind of like a big factor in his storyline of Final Fantasy X, which is kind of cool. I'm glad they're touching on that again and being like, no, I don't consider myself a hero. I'm not the good guy.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. I think you could tell, like, from his character when he says that, he's just kind of like, don't know how to answer that one. And we wind up getting through it with him, which I want to talk real quick about the combo attack that you get with Orin.
That he does, yes.
Dude, it's so cool. It's much like the other ones, it's a three-tiered attack where, like, you start off and it's Sora with his Keyblade and Orin with his sword do like this 360 slash. And then it's multiple where you can either do Sora's like an X-shaped Keyblade slash or Orin kind of spinning around attacking multiple enemies. And the very ending is they kind of both like lock up and then do this final giant spinning sword slash attack that kind of creates like a tornado of blade attacks. And it's like how a lot of them do, where it's like you start off with a small area of effect attack that breaks into two different individual attacks that then leads into one bigger area of effect combo attack.
Yeah, it follows the formula, but at the same time, the animations that they do for it are so cool that it's just like, I don't care that it follows the formula. It is amazing.
It's so cool. And they give each of these additional characters their own personality while they're doing it. Yeah, his is so nice.
Right. So with that, though, you have to face Cerberus, but Sora and Orin are the ones fighting it because Donald and Goofy, they get through the door. But Sora goes back to help Orin, and they throw down with Cerberus, just the two of them. This took me 2 tries. Cerberus does not play nice.
Yeah, I think I beat it in 1. But yes, he is a bit tougher. He's got a couple extra attacks in this one. I found he's a lot faster in this level.
Yeah, he was very clunky before. Like here, Cerberus is a threat.
Yeah, he comes after you, and it's not like, oh, you only have to worry about really one head attacking. No, all 3 are kind of keeping an eye on you, which I thought was very interesting that they changed that up a little bit.
Right, they really made him a true 3-headed dog. So that was cool. But as part of leaving, Sora unlocks the exit, which has this big obnoxious lock on it. And it's like, well, I have a Keyblade. It's literally what it's for. Let me unlock the darn thing. And Hades sees this and plots a way to use the Keyblade to unlock the Underdrome.
Yeah, which at this point, we don't know what the Underdrome is just yet, but...
Nope, he just calls it that. Like, we have a name for it, and that's all we have.
Yeah, and the guys managed to, so Sora opens the door, and they manage to get through, and right as the door is closing and Cerberus is running at him, probably one of my favorite moments, is all the guys do like that, like tongue sticking out, like one-eyed, kind of making fun of it. And I was like, that's this like childlike humor that they add in some of these moments in this game in particular are so cute and funny.
I love it so much. It's like, you can't get through, you're too big. Yeah.
Yeah.
The ridiculous Disney moments that they do. So on the other side of the door is the Coliseum, which looks exactly the same as it used to. Almost the same music. They added a new couple sections here and there, but like otherwise it's the same. I'm butchering the idea.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That wasn't bad.
You'd think with as many times as I've heard it that I would know it by now, but
I know.
There you run into Phil, who is all too happy to take you through some training, which is just smashing pots again. Oh boy.
Yeah, that's kind of feels like, oh, let's see if you guys are getting rusty. And we do this little kind of like pot smashing mini game. We don't need to go into it in too depth.
Did you save your times just out of curiosity?
So yeah, I did. In pot smashing game 1, I did it in a minute 15. And in
so the time that it shows is how much time is left, because it starts timer and you have to. So because that means, which thankfully means that I've beaten you by 2 seconds because I have 17 remaining.
God, dog it. Anyway, part 2, I had 56 seconds left.
Ooh, you got me there. Yeah, I had 47. I screwed up.
Woo! Let's go. Okay, cool. So at least in this one we tied. And then Hercules revealed that the Olympus stone, which is a stone given to him by the gods, blah blah blah, has been stolen by a hooded figure and some white creature, he says.
Right, which is almost definitely that weird guy who ran past us earlier, comically ran past us earlier. He's stolen the Olympus stone for some reason.
And we can only assume the white creature is probably a nobody.
Yeah, some kind of nobodies with him. And around this same time, we start to realize that Meg has been kidnapped by Hades, too.
Yeah, and Herc actually asks us, he's like, can you guys go and look for her? Because he's like, if I leave, there's nobody protecting this place.
Right, and there is something to protect it from, because Hades sends a hydra into the Coliseum.
Yep, the hydra, the giant reptilian, purplish creature with a long neck and giant teeth. And I say long neck, one head.
Yep, that's all hydras ever have is the one, right?
The one head. It's a one-headed creature.
Mm-hmm. So, and we get to see Pegasus in this moment too, which I thought was kind of cool. Like, oh, cool, a character from this world that we haven't seen before. I like it.
Yeah, so we wind up going to the underworld because Herc's starting to fight the Hydra, and we get down there and we run into the cloaked figure.
Okay, wait, okay. I know we're trying to go a little fast, but like this moment got me. Like the first thing when you walk through that pathway is there's like fog on the floor. Did you fall in that moment?
Oh, yes, I know.
Into the fog.
Yeah, because they don't. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Actually, yeah. So basically, the way that this level works is it's just like the entire floor area is covered in fog, but you don't realize is that fog opens. If there's only probably a fifth of it is actual floor, and the rest of it drops you into a chasm.
Yeah, and you're like, oh look, there's a crown over there. I should go get that, and you run forward and you just fall. I thought that killed me. The rest of the level is fine.
Yeah, I was like, that's dirty. That's really dirty.
It was so funny. So sorry. Anyway, you were saying we meet an organization member as you get through this little world.
Yeah, and so we meet this organization member who, best way I could describe is has this blonde mohawk, and his weapon is this blue, nobody symbol shaped guitar. It's actually a sitar. Is that what it is? I couldn't tell exactly what that was.
I learned that one from Jiminy's Journal. It's a sitar.
Oh, cool. But he keeps calling Sora Roxas to try to get a reaction out of him.
Right, and then it doesn't get a rise out of him, so he takes a card out of his pocket and says, use aggression to reveal his true disposition, or something like that.
Yeah, it's like the card says, if the subject does not respond, use force.
It's like, what? Okay, he's just reading instructions off a card, okay.
Yeah, so it's like somebody literally sent him there and was like, do this to Sora. If he does not respond to you calling him by a different name, just start attacking him.
I don't know. I don't think that's what's happening. I think that card is instructions for what he's supposed to do to Roxas. I think this guy's dumb and doesn't realize that this is Sora. Unless maybe he knows that Roxas is inside of him. Is Roxas inside of Sora? Okay. Rabbit hole.
My take on it is that somebody was told he is part of, so Roxas is part of Sora. Call out to him. If Sora doesn't react to that name in any way, see if fighting him causes a reaction.
I like that. Okay. So the aggression that he uses is to just like play his sitar and summon 100 of these little water figures that you have to kind of beat through quickly.
Yeah, it's not as much you're fighting him as you're fighting these water clone forms of his rapidly, and we wind up beating him. And he is going to disappear, and he just goes, Roxas, man, come back to us, and disappears. And Sora is just like, what is he talking about? This dude is a broken record.
Okay, so let's break the tie here. Did you write down how much time you had remaining when you beat these 100 forms in 80 seconds?
Yeah, but give me yours, because I feel like I keep losing when I give you mine.
25 seconds and 75, 25, 75 is what I had.
Yeah, I think I had like, if I'm reading, yeah, I had 19, 20, 1922, 1921, something like that. You definitely beat me. I had a little bit of a harder time catching. There were like, once I got towards the end, I was having trouble snagging a couple of them, and that killed my time for sure.
Oh man.
Yeah, so you definitely
still one more timer. There, you might take it back in the end. We'll see.
We'll see. But no, as soon I was like, you said, what did you say? 27?
25, 75.
25. Yeah, I was like, oh no, P beat me by a good margin.
So we put him in the ground, and by that I mean he just runs away. And he comes back and tells us more about the absent silhouettes, which is actually, he tells us nothing really, but whatever.
Yeah, basically he just says that by fighting it in its forms, you will awaken more of yourself. So yeah, he didn't really tell us anything because the guys don't have no idea what he's talking about. But after that, Donald picks up that we now have the Olympus medal, and we get Ansem's 5th report.
Yeah, I'm excited to read those. Not today, though.
No, not today. That usually tends to be like a half an episode for us.
True. And because now we have access to our drive forms, which also gives us access to summons again.
Heck yeah, it does.
We press forward until we find a rock that has Megara's outline in it and a little keyhole right next to it, which is very clearly a trap. Like, there has never been a more obvious trap than this rock.
Everything about this just screams like, this is 100% Hades just being like, I want you to open this.
Right. So, you know what? We save, we hop in. I actually stopped and bought a crap ton of potions because I had been, but run in, hop in the hole, and instead of, actually we do find Megara in there, but we also find Hades and Pete inside.
Yeah, and of course Hades is just like, it's like, yep, you can have her because I used her for everything I needed. And he winds up disappearing. And we break her free only to have Pete attack us.
Interestingly, we don't break her free for the first fight. We leave her bound up. I don't know why, because as it's shown in a couple minutes, Sora can just like cut through and let her free very easily. But instead we leave her cut up so that we have to fight Pete and the Heartless while keeping her safe from the Heartless. It's a cheesy little mini game, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I got what you mean. I forgot she was tied up for that bit. That was kind of silly, but yeah, whatever. But then Herc actually shows up, and we get Meg out, and of course Pete is just like, oh god, Hercules. We wind up, he's like, get her out of here. But then we wind up going back to back up Hercules, who's fighting Pete and the Heartless.
Right, and as that's happening, the cave of the Underdrome, or presumably that's where we are, starts to like cave in. So we now are on a time limit to defeat Pete and get out of here. Yeah,
which I will say I didn't keep the time limit for the timer for this one. I just missed it.
Oh, yeah, it was hard because they covered it with like, oh, you leveled up and you got all these things. So I had to like watch and wait and wait and wait. I had to like write it down really quickly when I saw it.
Yeah, so it was just like, at that point I was I just skipped it.
But yeah, Pete was kind of a fun fight though. He had some things like he throws marbles out for you to like slip on, and he like bowls at you too. Like he's very much like, this is definitely the Pete from Goof Troop For sure.
Yes, this was a very Disney villain. But what we do is we wind up going back up topside, and we get to the Coliseum, and the Hydra has absolutely destroyed this place.
Yeah, like makes you fear for the lives of the people of Olympus that have probably been killed.
And we see that Hercules is completely out of commission. So we're just like, all right, junior heroes, here we go.
Right. I mean, thankfully we have backup from Phil and Pegasus. This is kind of cool the way that they do this. Like, it's a normal fight in the way that the Cerberus fight was, but at the same time, there's some extra steps on top of it that make it interesting. Like, when you get the first head down, it, like, sticks its head in the ground, and you have like 3 heads that pop up that you have to fight.
Mm-hmm.
I struggled on this a little bit.
I actually really enjoyed this fight. I thought, because it's in the stages, you fight, like you said, you fight the 1 head, and it sticks its head in the ground, and then you realize it's 3 heads now. And then manage to beat 3 heads, and then it turns into like 9. And to this entire time, to be able to stun it, Phil has been up on top of this building yelling, "Get up on the Hydra's back!"
God, he just, like, yells it over and over and over again, too. Like, if you don't do it, he just keeps yelling, "Get up on the Hydra's back! Get up on the Hydra's back!" Oh, my God.
I know. That part was a little annoying, but it's because if you get onto his back, Phil will do this combo with you where he will toss this giant pot towards you that you then use to smack the Hydra with, which stuns it for a certain amount of time. But so we do that kind of fighting mechanic. But I thought the animatic fight scene in this was so cool, where Sora jumps on the back of Pegasus and you literally are flying in between the Hydra's heads and using the triangle cues, smacking each of the heads to stun it and take its health down.
Yeah, and you actually like do it in good timing too, or else you don't get attacks through. I thought that was really cool. It was fun. I missed one of them in that animatic, but it was still a lot of fun. It got a lot of damage in.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And we wind up taking it down, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, we finally beat it! Everything's going good." And the Olympus stone actually turns into, as in previous levels, these important items. Actually, we didn't talk about it in the Beast Castle. It's the rose that's the gate to the world. In this level, it's the Olympus stone, and Sora, in same fashion, that turns into a keyhole that he then closes.
Right, which opens up a new pathway to another world.
Yeah. And, the guys are like, we got to get out of here. All the normal, goodbyes, we'll see you soon kind of stuff.
And we leave the world of Olympus behind for the time being, though I get the sense that we'll be back, as we spent far too little time with Aaron.
Oh, I'm sure. And, they'll definitely have the tournaments and stuff of that nature. But we also get a new Keyblade here, which is the Hero's Crest Keyblade.
I'm sure you equipped this immediately.
Oh, it was 100%. It was happening. It's my standard at the moment.
Yeah, I'm still holding on to the dragon one.
Yeah, I had a feeling a dragon one would be yours for a while.
Right. I mean, the extra MP when you anyway. So
it's great.
As one little closing thought for this, the last thing that we see is Queen Minnie is at the Mickey Castle or Disney Castle or whatever you want to call it. And Chip and Dale come to warn her that there's something happening in the Hall of the Cornerstone, which no idea what that's supposed to imply.
Yeah, they come running in and she's like, "What's going on?" And she comes into this room, and whatever the Hall of the Cornerstone in has been completely covered in these dark black thorns. And of course, she's like, "Oh, King Mickey, where are you? We need you."
And for Donald and Goofy, too.
Yeah. But then this cutscene actually, if I have this written down in order correctly, was because there was a cutscene right before this where we see Maleficent in a clock tower, and Pete fills her in on the organization and what they've been doing. And she's like, "Oh, the organization, those fools." And what do you think about that? Because it's like, obviously that means she knows who the organization is, and she apparently has been like keeping tabs on them.
I mean, I can only imagine that she must have, because they have been doing things at the same time. Like, I imagine that maybe it was an organization member that bothered Sora and Riku back on the Destiny Islands. I'm sure that we know that the organization was in Hollow Bastion, but that was after she had died because of the unknown fight in the first game. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're going to see, but it seems like she knows a lot more. Even after being gone for a while, she still has been able to like keep tabs on all these different groups, and she's smart. She's very smart.
Yeah, I'm glad to see a return to form for Maleficent, because I feel like she was too cheaply finished off in the last game.
Yeah, I'm excited to see if she gets a bit more of a revamp and a larger scale battle in this new one. Right.
So, I think that's where we can leave it for today, though, on a nice, we have a new world to go to.
Yeah, I kept it secret. I did not, what, if you want to talk about it, I didn't look to see what the next level was. I wanted to kind of leave it alone.
Okay, I looked, but I won't tell you. It's okay.
Okay.
Can you guess? Do you have a guess? Because, I mean, I know exactly, like...
Okay, even if I get it wrong, just tell me. Is it the next one isn't it's not Lion King, is it?
The next world is actually Disney Castle.
Oh, okay, so we actually go there this early. I don't know why I remembered it I thought it was later in the game. That's cool.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing too. It could be one of those things where we just have to make a stopover there like we did at Hollow Bastion. But yeah, no other pathways opened up. We just go straight to the castle.
Oh, okay. Well, and I guess in the next episode, we're going to be going try to save Queen Minnie. As always, thank you everybody for listening. Kyle, this has been great. Can't wait to jump back in next week.
Absolutely. Catch you then.
All right. Bye-bye. Hey there, Kingdom Hearts fans. Thanks for listening to the episode. Dream Drop Long Distance is hosted by Mitchell Orsino and Kyle Bradshaw, and is produced by Kyle Bradshaw. Our theme music was written and recorded by Alex McLean.